Warning: this podcast discusses paranormal activity and other topics some might find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ghost Gossip. I am your host, Ashley, and today I have a very special guest joining me. Her name is Taylor, and she is from Paranormal Teej on TikTok and on YouTube, and she collects haunted dolls. I am absolutely enamored by her collection, and I cannot wait to share this episode with you. I hope you enjoy.
Hey, how's it going?
That's good. How are you?
Good.
I'm
Got the whole squad behind me, so
I love them so much. Oh my
thank
gosh.
you.
I want you just to tell me about yourself and how you got started doing what you do.
All right, so I am Paranormal Teej. My name is Taylor. I collect haunted dolls. I kind of got into this in a weird roundabout way. I come from a very paranormal family, so paranormal stuff was always kind of normal to me. My mom is a professional psychic medium, that is her career. So I was kind of always around it. My whole family has had paranormal experiences. My dad and both of his siblings have had plenty of experiences, whether they like it or not. They haven't embraced it quite as much as my mom and her side of the family. But I even remember being like 3, 4 and sleeping over at my grandma's house and her like doing a Ouija board by herself at her kitchen table. So it's kind of always around it. So I was never really scared of it because it was just so normal. I feel like when we're adults and we're exposed to things, like we're kind of more jaded and we have this like natural tendency to get scared. But when you're a kid and it's just like this thing that you do, it's like really not scary. So I was going on ghost hunts using an EMF meter and an ovilus and all of these things when I was like in kindergarten, basically. So this was never a weird thing for me. It was always just a normal part of life. That was just what we did. And then I moved into a very haunted apartment, but when I was probably 24 and very haunted apartment. And I kind of had to do some investigating to figure out what was going on in my own apartment because I had a little bit of an angry ghost
Oh,
and it all just kind of went from there. It all just kind of went from there. And then it was kind of game on. And I got my first haunted doll, which was Lana, who's the duck vessel. And I had such a good experience and we just kept going from there. So that's kind of the weird roundabout way. It didn't start with haunted dolls. That was how it ended.
so I will say I'm not psychic, but I'm sensitive. And one of them, they're giving off so much energy. Like my eyes are starting to water and my whole
Yeah,
body is so chilled up. And I don't know which one. And
it's probably Jessica.
my mouth is watering. Like I'm seriously, my full body is reacting and I don't know how to control it. I don't, like I say, it's either I have it or I have nothing. And
Yeah.
somebody is making me just like, I feel it intensely.
Yeah, I get eye-watering with a couple different ones. Those who are more emotional in nature, like every once in a while, make people cry, whether they want to be crying or they're sad or not. So sorry about
Oh, it's
that.
okay. It's just weird because I've been sitting here getting ready for the past 30 minutes, writing down my questions
Yeah.
and getting my lights and getting my kids and my dogs kind of situated. And then we sit down and you start talking. And the moment you started talking, it just like my whole body started to react. So it's just really funny because I haven't been feeling this way all day long.
There's a lot of energy in this room. A lot of
Yes,
energy.
yes, I love it. I love it. I had so many when I saw you on TikTok, it was like I'm not even gonna lie, dolls always scared me. I had a
Yeah.
really bad experience with a room of haunted dolls at a antique store in Hendersonville, North Carolina. My
Okay.
my whole family did. We it actually ran us out of the store. All 5 of us turned around and
Wow.
we were out. And now that store's closed. And not saying it's related, but we
Maybe it's
went
a good thing.
might be a good thing. We went back to see if we felt it again and they were closed. And we were like, okay, can't test that theory. But they've always kind of scared me and they've scared my husband. And when I went to Zach Bagan's Haunted Museum in Vegas, when I got to the doll room, I was like, why is it always dolls? And then when I saw your account, I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like this is really cool.
Thank you. When I started, I was not into dolls either. I was like, I'm going to collect haunted stuffed animals only. And then I was like, and then I like saw Omi and Christy who are like these cute like stuffed dolls and I was like, okay, I can do that. Like they're adorable. And then I was like not gonna do porcelain dolls. I was just not. And then
Their eyes are
Fiona
like,
suckered me in and I'm like, okay, I'll take whatever now. I don't care.
so that is really interesting. How did you, okay, so your family is really paranormal family, which I think is amazing. My family, it's half and half. I'm the weird one of my family. Like I'm the one that's like, you want to talk about ghosts constantly.
Yeah, I'm like not the weird one in my family. It's like a normal thing. Like at Thanksgiving dinner, like we have Jeremiah like sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table with us, like chilling out, like stuff is falling down, and my family's like, oh, it's just Jer. Like it's so nonchalant. It's like not even funny. Like I'm always like, wow, I have like my front windows open. I'm like, I wonder what the neighbors think. I'm like, I swear, they're probably like, this girl talks to her lights. She's like bringing stuffed animals to Thanksgiving dinner. They're like, what's going on in this house? But you know what? I'm the neighborhood crazy lady and it's cool.
I am too. I am too. I'm the one that lived in the haunted house and we moved and everybody's like, did you move because it was haunted? I was like, no, I loved my ghost. Like he became
Yep.
family. I moved
Yeah.
because it was school. We needed to be in the school system, the school district that we're in. And that always
It's
confuses
weird
people.
once you move out of a haunted house and it's like you have nothing going on anymore. You're kind of like, oh, this is a little boring. Like I sought this out after I moved out of my haunted apartment and I was like, there's nothing going on here. What's the deal? Like
Right.
there's no activity.
You mean the lights don't come on and off on their own here?
Right.
Like things don't move. Like since we've come into this house, we've had a couple of things happen, but it really is very quiet. And I'm like, this is, I mean, not gonna say it sucks because there's a piece in there, but so your first haunted doll was the duck
Yes.
Lana. Look at she, I feel like she's looking at me. She's kind of like this.
I love her. I love her. She's so great.
So how did you, I'm trying to, I wrote my questions down. I'm not even looking at them. So you got started. No, you got started, but how did you stumble across stuffed animals and dolls? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, so me and my husband, like I've always like, read the books, watched the shows, done the things, and we just like were going to different, paranormal events and things like that. Listening to podcasts and watching shows about it and whatever. And I was always like, me and my husband were both, oh, we'd love to have one, but I didn't know you could just like go buy one. I thought it was like something that like shows up at your house and you're like, oh, I got a haunted thing. I didn't know it was
Right,
something that you could seek out, to be honest with you.
right.
Um, and then I started actually seeing stuff on TikTok of all these people that had like tons of them. And I was like, okay, you can get them somewhere. And you can. There's a lot of places you can get them. But I was really interested. I did a ton of research, an obscene amount of research. And I always like add a disclaimer. I get a lot of people who are messaging me like, I saw your content. I want a haunted doll. And I'm like, that's great, but like make sure you do your research because it's not always like the cutesy fun that you see on TikTok. It's not. And you don't want to be scared in your own home if you're not comfortable with activity. You don't want to be like peeping around the corners in your space because your home is supposed to be like your safe place.
Right, right,
If
right,
you're
right.
somebody that like, easily alarms, like you're really going to get yourself into a tizzy in your own house and you just don't want that. So
No.
but I was used to it, so I was like, I'm not phased by it. And so I just started like doing a lot of research on like how to find a haunted doll seller, what to look for. And actually I get that question so much now. I like made a free PDF guide for people of like how to find a haunted doll. A in an ethical way and like B in a safe way. So like you don't get scammed and you also don't get something that is not well investigated and you end up with something nasty. So I do have a guide on that because I was getting enough questions where I was like, somebody's going to buy something that they don't want because of me, and I'm going to feel really guilty about it. But I just started researching for days and days and days. And I wasn't looking for like a haunted stuffed animal, but I saw Lana and I just immediately, I was like, that's the one. Like, I didn't even think about it. I saw her picture before I even read her bio, and I was like, this is the one I'm getting. I read her bio and it made me like her even more. She's kind of like a positive guardian type spirit from the 1800s. We thought she was a lot older than she was just because the way she communicates, she's very mature and she refused to tell her age, which we didn't know why.
She's a
But
lady.
yeah, it goes along with her story because basically she got pregnant out of wedlock and that was what led to her passing.
Oh,
And like a very stigmatized thing was like that she was pregnant out of wedlock. And so her age was like this thing she was super cagey about. And so now it makes sense. And
right,
like I get it. But it was kind of meant to be like pretty much the first time we ever made contact with her, we got she wanted to send us on, she called it a quest. It was so cute. She uses like this very formal like 1800s language and she's like, I'm gonna send you on a quest. And we're like, all right, girl, like what do you want us to do? And she actually had wanted us to like find her grave and find her. And like early 1800 stuff is like really not easy to find online and she
right,
didn't
right,
really understand that because internet wasn't a thing then. So we took probably 6 months like working with her, and getting more and more information. We were able to get her first name, her last name. She was so specific. I mean, she gave us the state, the town, the year she was born, like we had the year she passed. Like we had all of these great details, but we just couldn't find her. And I was bummed because I was like, either we're missing something, we got something inaccurate from her, don't know what's going on. And then we finally had a breakthrough probably a month or two ago where she didn't, I mean, she doesn't know how Google works, right?
right.
So we didn't know that Lana was a nickname. And so we
Oh,
were searching her nickname with her last name and having no success. And we were like, wait. Lana's a nickname. What is your first name? And she gave it to us. And like the second I looked up the name, I had a hit and I found her. So we were
wow.
able to locate her. Actually, somebody on TikTok, I went on live and I was like, I need somebody with an Ancestry membership. I was like, who can help me out? And some girl like went and pulled all of her information, all of her files, and everything she gave us on the spirit box matched every single detail. Like down to her parents' professions, down to how many siblings she had, everything matched what she told us. So it was pretty incredible. And it was like one of those things that really validates the experience you're having, because we get really good conversations on Spirit Box, but like when you're able to validate and like find
Yes,
like a
yes.
gravestone, like that is so validating. So it was pretty incredible. So we were able to find her, and also we were able to figure out who her daughter was, that was taken from her as well. She gave us the first name of her daughter, and we found out there was an aunt that lived 2 hours away that had a daughter with no birth certificate, and she had had this daughter when she was like 45 years old, and we had
Wow.
death records, birth records, and just everything matched. So it was crazy, but we were able to find Lana. So being that that was my first haunted doll experience, you can see why I was like, okay, we can do this. And we
Yeah,
just went
you
for it.
you were hooked after that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is amazing. That is so
Yeah, we
cool.
spent
Like
months trying to find her.
that really is cool. Like the whole time you were talking, my ears are coming in and out. They're doing this weird like pressure thing, and it happens when there's a lot of energy with me. And it's like I'm not sure if they're doing it because they're uber proud of you, and they're just like beaming parents back there. Because as you were talking,
I
it
have a
was just
couple that do
yeah.
that.
Okay. Okay. Because it's so weird because I can go months and not feel anything, and I'm feeling everything right now.
CL gives like this on an airplane feeling where you're like, oh my gosh, like we're taking off
That's
feeling to the point where
she's
you're
the
like, I
one
have an
I
ear
was
infection.
looking at.
Yeah. CL will cause that. And then Jessica causes ear ringing a lot.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Now is Jessica, is she standing? Is she tall? Is this
Yes, she's like mannequin size. So she is standing on like a little box. She's huge. She's fascinating. But yeah.
wow. It's so wild. Like my husband, who is a skeptic, lifelong skeptic until he met and married me, and then started having experiences around me when things like this happen. He doesn't understand it. I can't explain it. So it's nice to know that I'm not just feeling something, like it's not just in my head. Like what I'm feeling is actually happening.
These are things people have experienced over and over again with like specific ones in my collection. So you're not telling me anything I have not heard before in terms of like the eye watering. Like I've had that myself in spirit box sessions where like I'm talking to Jer and like I'm crying and I have no control over it. And I'm like, Jer, please. Like, I'm like, you're humiliating me on the internet. Um,
I don't
but
need to be
I've,
crying over here.
yeah.
Oh, so how do you know they're haunted? Like you said, you did a lot of research, but how can I see your videos and there, you have cat balls and EMF readers, but what else do you do? Like, what are the necklaces that you hang on them?
Yeah, so I have like three behind me so I can show you. But so well first of all, I know they're haunted before they even get here because I buy them from like other paranormal investigators and so many of my haunted dolls have been investigated for like 5 to 10 years before they ever get to my house. Like they've had teams researching them and things like that. So I have documentation before they come here. So I do have that going for me. So that actually helps me a lot because then I know like what kinds of things that they're going to be able to do. And so I can like set those opportunities up. Like some of them are very electrical with like lights and things. Some of them are big into like movement of themselves and movement of other things. So I know to like pull stuff like that. And so that helps a lot. These little necklaces, and I can just show you on Aki. So these are called balloon lights. I'm trying to see if I can take off my background so it's not blurry for you. Well, there you go. He just turned it on for you. So the little balloon lights are just like lights that they wear on strings that they are able to turn on and off themselves. So we just leave them on all the time. Some of them I actually took them off because they were just setting them off 24 hours a day. Oh, if I put them in front of me, it unblurs them. They were just setting them off 24 hours a day. So it was getting to be a bit much. And I was like running around turning off lights all the time. So I put them on anybody new now as kind of like oh, show me you're here kind of thing, whatever. And so they just turn these on and off by themselves. This is like, I would say like the lowest level equipment that we use just because honestly, it's easy stuff, but we use things like REM pods, which are like proximity sensors. So
Yes.
they'll, if they activate that, we do use EMF. I always say, like, as a condition, like, you never use EMF in isolation without, like, the presence of other equipment because, environmental fluctuations can impact an EMF reader and you don't want to get, like, inaccurate reads that way. We do communication in a variety of ways. My favorite is the spirit box. Like, I am a spirit box girl. I don't know. That's just, I get so much from that because they are able to, like, we're able to hear, like, their tone of voice and kind of who they are in
Right, right,
addition
right.
to so it's kind of nice. Like you get a little bit more of their energy. Some of them like talk in a very like silly, goofy, enthusiastic way. Other ones are like super anxious and like you can tell they're just like mass chaos and things like that. So not only do you get what they're saying, you also get how they're saying it, which is why I love the spirit box. But we use a variety of different equipment. My haunted dolls also do a lot without equipment. Honestly, the equipment stuff besides the spirit box, which we do on our own, like the equipment stuff, a lot of it I do for videos so other people can see, like what they are able to do. But we just get a lot of activity in our house in general, like without equipment, which makes it very obvious about like the haunting stuff, like the are you haunted piece, because a lot of mine do move on their own. I always say like not all you don't have to move to be a haunted doll, but because it takes an incredible amount of energy for a haunted doll to move. It really, really does. And not all of them do. But I do have a lot that move on their own. Some of them in larger ways than others. Looking around.
Something just moved in my house. That's why
I heard something. That's why I was like, was that my house or your house?
I don't know. And it could be my girls because they're upstairs, but they don't have
I
hardwood floors upstairs. There's carpet. So that's why I'm like, what
was
was
like,
that?
yeah, so stuff moves. We also have other like things move too. One thing that's really interesting, one other way my haunted dolls communicate is they'll show up in our dreams and like
That's cool.
show us things. I got actually a lot of Lana's story that way was from dreams, but she didn't want me to see her age, of course, so she made me her. So it was like I was in her shoes having her experiences, but it was me. And then like Jer, when he shows up, it's always me and Jer together, because he's my buddy. But he always, because he didn't like the way he looked when he passed, he often shows up as his bear. So it'll be like me and him, like as his bear and in a dream together and things like that. We have gotten like warnings, we have gotten all types of stuff in dreams. So that's another way. But they're all over the place. I mean, we get knocking on our walls, we get stuff falling down, books flying off the shelf, the overhead lights flicker, any number of traditional haunted house things. It just comes from a vessel rather than the property, essentially, is the main difference. So a lot of different ways. Some equipment, some not. I actually find the less I do equipment, the more active they are in bigger ways because they have to do more like bigger things in the house to get my attention. And mine are very attention oriented. So, if they don't have the little lights on them, which is why I took them off of everybody except for the new ones, if they don't have the lights on them, then they have to go for the overhead light or they have to knock something down to get me to notice. So that was one way we actually increase the activity a bit, was by taking those off. So yeah, we a number of things, a number of things.
But how do you know which one's causing the activity?
Well, when it's like them, it's obvious. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes they fess up and it's really easy. I will turn all their lights on and I'll say, who did it? And one of them will turn the light on. And like some of them are so happy to fess up to it. It's actually hilarious. They like take it like it's such a badge of honor. Like, look at what I've done, you know? So a lot of times they'll fuss up to it. Sometimes they won't. And then Hoshi will just tell me who did it. Because she has no problem ratting somebody out. Some of the other ones won't rat anybody out, but Hoshi will be like, "Oh yeah, that was so and so," and I'm like, "Thanks." So a lot of times we have to ask. Some stuff is like really specific to like one, where like only one does this one thing, and then I know, like static shocks, sparks, things like that. Like that's always going to be Barb. She's the only one that does that. So like if I'm getting shocked by something and or there's like sparks or anything that's like heavy, like electrical in that way, like that's always going to be Barb. There's different things like that. Some of them have their own music box, like Lana's a music box, Teresia is as well. And like they'll play their music by themselves and then of course I know it's them. And some stuff you won't find out because they're just not going to tell you who did it and you have to guess. But some stuff is very on brand for certain ones and I'm like, okay. Like I know who that was. So, and sometimes you find out months later. Like I just found out who folded some bandanas on my kitchen floor a couple months ago. So,
Really?
yes.
Oh, well, okay. Just casually got
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
bandanas on the floor.
Oh yeah, I
Folded.
went downstairs. I had these like Christmas ghost dog bandanas and they showed up the day after Christmas, so my dogs didn't get to wear them. And so they were just like thrown on my countertop and like all messy. Like I'm not like the cleanest person in the world. They were like all messy, just like strewn all over the counter. And I go downstairs at like 2 in the morning. My husband's been asleep since like, 9 p.m. Go downstairs into the kitchen and these bandanas are perfectly folded in a pile in the middle of my kitchen floor. And when I walk in the room, the overhead light starts flickering, like just to make sure I noticed them, just to
Hmm.
make sure. And I never found out who it was. I had suspects, but I never found out who it was. Nobody would tell me. It was like this weird thing. And then we're on a spirit box session, actually on a TikTok live, a couple weeks ago. And we're talking to Cheryl, and she's like, I thought the bandanas would be a good memory for you. And I'm like, wow, thank you. Like it was like her gift to me. I was like, thank you. It was a great memory. So, and I was like, after all this time, like now I find out, like, why didn't you just tell me the day it happened? But sometimes it's like that where you just don't know. I don't know.
Now you say they're all positive.
Yes.
So what do you mean? If somebody asked you, like, how do you know they're positive? Or like, how would you explain that to somebody like me or anybody else whose dolls kind of scare them?
Yes, that's a great question. So, positive, basically with haunted objects, are usually classified between positive, neutral, and negative. It's a subjective thing that people made up, right? And so everybody kind of has their own take on it. My take specifically is more in terms of action and intent rather than emotion, because I always say like positive spirits can get upset, they can get sad, they can get mad in the same way that like, they were living people once. Like you can be the best person in the world and you get pissed off, and flip somebody off while you're driving. That doesn't mean you're
Right.
like a negative, horrible person. It just means you had a moment, you know. I always say, like, I don't weigh feelings into it because it is absolutely crazy to think that everybody is going to be happy all the time. Like, a positive spirit's not going to be happy 24 hours a day. So I always say it's more in terms of like intent and action. So a negative spirit is like typically the way I think of it is like a spirit who has the potential to cause harm, whether that be, you know, your typical scratches, bruises, nasty nightmares, making you feel sick, giving you headaches, those kinds of things would be like a negative, something that has the potential to cause harm and has caused harm in the past. There's some history of it somewhere along the line. That doesn't mean they're doing that all the time. It just means they have the capacity to do so. Whereas positive, of course, is like the complete opposite. So that's a spirit who they have no intention to cause harm and they have never caused harm. There's no history of it. It's nothing you have to worry about, be concerned about, anything like that. Those are also spirits who typically the activity looks a little bit different. A lot of times, negatives activity, it's like with the intent of freaking you out. And it's a little bit more aggressive. It's like, you know, my old house ghost that I lived with who would try to slam people's fingers in the drawers when they're opening them, you know?
Right. Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stuff like that. Like the activity is a little bit more pointed, whereas like with positives, it's very passive. You know, it's like your overhead lights flickering. I walk by and they like roll the ball off the shelf so I see it. You know, like more small passive stuff where it's not like targeted at you. It's just like, oh, I'm going to give you something to see kind of stuff. So the activity usually looks a little bit different and it's not with an intent to cause harm. I always like to give the example of like Jeremiah. Like he's super, super, super active. He moves stuff, he moves himself, he can throw stuff. I mean, he can open my closet doors. Like he's super active. He's a 6-year-old little kid. When we got him the first couple months, every single time he would do something on the spirit box, he would apologize for it. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'm sorry. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I'm not gonna hurt you. I don't want, and you know, like things like that. And so I think that experience with Jared taught me a lot of like, you know, yes, they're active because at the end of the day, you know, it's spirit, like, yes, they're active, but the intent isn't to scare you. It isn't to like freak you out. It's just like sometimes something that happens. Like Jared would do something and he'd be like, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Like, so that's kind of the different. Neutrals is kind of somewhere in between. Like sometimes they're super cool, super super safe, but then, you know, usually it's like usually a neutral is a spirit that has like a very firm boundary. Like, okay, if you do this, this, and this, like we're chilling. But if you do this, like I'm gonna go more negative on you. So I work with positives only. I don't play with negatives. There's a lot of people that do and are cool with that. I just don't feel comfortable with it. Would I work with negatives outside of my house? Yes, I certainly would. Inside my house, like this is my,
right.
you know, this is
Hmm.
my place. And if I'm welcoming the amount of activity I am, I want to make sure I'm not like sleeping and getting scratched at night. I don't know. That's just not for me. I'm like more
No,
power to people who can live with that, but I just can't. So
that makes sense. Do you have anyone named Adam?
no.
Okay, I just got that name on my spirit box on my app on my phone, and I also got spoiled.
Well,
So
they
that's why
are
I was
spoiled.
wondering.
They're definitely spoiled. That would be an accurate. They get a lot of gifts. Offering is a
Oh,
big thing in our house. So
do they get gifts from fans?
yes.
They do. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, we get like just this week we got like a Valentine's Day box from somebody sent to our PO box for them and things like that. And they actually do interact with fans too, which is really sweet. Like on Spirit Box sessions, if we're on live, like they've said people's names, they've given people like advice, like they really love actually doing the videos. It's something that they really enjoy. I was sick a couple weeks ago. I didn't film for a couple of days and they're like, video this. Are you recording? And I'm like, no, I'm not recording right now. I'm like trying to like, I'm on my last leg here. I'm not recording right now. And they're like, please. I'm like, not right now. Like, it's
I'm
okay.
trying not to become a haunted doll. Okay, I just need
Yes.
a moment
Yes.
to recover.
They love it. They really do. So.
Now, how do they get their vessels? Like, because I always heard dolls are vessels. So, how do they become haunted dolls? Like, how do they get in there?
That's a great question. There's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways. So one way is very simple. They pick it. They
Okay.
choose. Omi is a good example of that. She's a really cute vessel. And I asked Omi, I was like, oh, how did you end up with your vessel? And she's like, well, I wanted to look really cute so someone would take me home. And that's why I picked my vessel. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, it's a little it's a little manipulative, not gonna lie, but whatever. And she's like, well, it worked for you, didn't it? And I was like, it did. You got me, you got me. And she's like, and I got to live where I wanted to live. I was like, great. So sometimes they just pick it. Other times they pick it because it's something that they identify with. It looked like them when they were alive. Like Cheryl says her vessel looks like her when she was younger, before her life went really bad. So it's like kind of like an innocent portrayal of who she was. And then other ones like basically hop into an object on accident. They're drawn to something and then like suddenly that's how it is. Christy was haunting actually her parents' house and she was like, they were moving and I was getting nervous about them moving. And I don't know, this doll was in the garage or something and it just ended up, that's just kind of what happened. So some of them don't exactly know. And then other ones, there's other ways to end up in a vessel like conjuring. So some degree of magic. I do have a couple of conjured objects who were conjured for one reason or another. I have some pretty sad cases in that regard. A lot of times it's they got conjured to help solve a crime, or they got conjured because they were somebody's child, things like that, where they were conjured for a purpose, and then that purpose runs out and they stay and they get moved to somebody else, and it's kind of sad in that regard. But you never know. You never know. There's a lot of different reasons. The other interesting reason, and this is where like the haunted house stuff and haunted properties comes in, is like I have a couple of them, like Oric and Rachel, a couple of them where they were haunting a property for like a very, very long time. Like they were like, your average house ghost, and the property was going to be demolished, and they got nervous because they didn't know what would happen to them once the property went down. So they chose to hop into something as a way to get off of the property that they were stuck on. So like Rachel back here, she was haunting an apartment building for a very long time. And the apartment was being torn down. It was super trash. And she was like, I didn't necessarily want a vessel, but I didn't know if they tore down the building, like if I would be hurt or what would happen. And so I just, hitched a ride on an object. So there's a lot of different ways that they can become haunted. And it's always fascinating. They all have their own unique story about it. A lot of them can tell you about it, which I always find interesting. And I think some of them are like really into being haunted objects. Others were like, this was something that I had to do. But yeah,
Do
very
you
individual though.
do you have any of them that make like heart race?
Yes,
Okay.
for it.
Okay.
What I was just talking about.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Because when you started talking about him, my heart started to race a little bit, and I'm like, I wonder if if that happens.
That's his thing. People say like he makes their like blood pressure raise. He's very, 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 very anxious. He's only
Okay.
been for about a week, but he completely lost his marbles over.
He is somewhere new, is what that says.
Interesting.
To see
Yeah,
somewhere new.
he is somewhere new. Yes, he just got here a week ago. We found out he's very claustrophobic. He says bubble wrap is very terrible. He did not like being shipped, and he lost his mind.
Oh,
He broke his stand that he's hooked up to because he's actually a puppet, and he broke his stand, like cracked it into a bunch of pieces. We had to glue it together, and then he had a meltdown over that because his feet were touching the ground, and he doesn't want his feet touching the ground because he's claustrophobic. And so he ended up breaking himself in the shipping process. It was a big, long, drawn out event. He's been talking about bubble wrap for a whole 7 days. Will not will not drop it. How terrible of a thing bubble wrap is. Omi last night told us we need to throw out all of the Amazon boxes that are like left around our house because she doesn't want to hear or talk about boxes anymore. So we need to throw them out, which is hilarious. I just saw an orb go past me,
like in
but
your room behind you.
yeah, just in front of me. It was like, whoop. I just thought on the screen. But we actually talked to Oric on a TikTok live last night for our subscribers, and we found out he's actually really funny. Like he talked about the box for a while, and we were like, oh great. I was like, oh great. My poor subscribers are gonna have to listen to him talk about boxes for the next 30 minutes of their life. And then he was like, am I on TV? And we were like, it's not exactly TV. We explained like what TikTok was. And he was like, oh. And then he was like, basically decided to host a game show on the Spirit Box. It was hilarious. Like with all these people watching, he was like having them guess letters and like playing hangman with them. And it turns out he's really funny. He's just really a nervous guy. So the heart race makes sense.
My heart is racing, and I do feel we went zip lining in Mexico, and
Yeah.
being up on this huge tower, being really high up, and we also went cave diving and being closed up, and that is exactly how I'm feeling and it just started. So that's interesting. Now, do you have one that's a teacher?
Teacher. Not like a teacher like up as a profession, but like spiritual teacher. I have a couple actually. Willow up here, and then Arian one, Teresia, and Evney, I would all say would fit that description.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yes, I love apps and I take them with a grain of salt because
Yes.
they are apps and they are man-made, but sometimes I find the information just too close, just too spot on to just write it off. And so it came teacher came across, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, with apps, it's like sometimes they're like a huge hit and then sometimes they're like a huge miss. And I think that's just the software component of it that's a little bit different than like a spirit box because at the end of the day, it is for entertainment purposes.
Right.
So sometimes I feel like you're getting accurate information. Sometimes I feel like the app is filling in the gaps because they don't want you to sit and have nothing.
Yep.
Because it's an app and they want to keep you
Exactly.
entertained and they want to keep you using it. So it's like sometimes I feel like it's right on, and then other times I feel like it's completely random. And that's just like the software piece of it. I have other devices, like I have a Spirit Chat, and like if there's nothing going on, that box will be quiet for an hour. I mean, no words will come out. But an app, I mean, they're not going to sell the app that way if it's set up that way. So yeah, I sit in a lot of silence sometimes, and other times it's like going to go off 500 times in an hour, and you don't know which one you're going to get. Just depends on the day. So
I have my spirit box and I cannot hear on it. And so I think it is I don't know how y'all do it because I have tried and I'm trying to practice more. And I'm old. And so I'm getting older and, the loud noise is just like, eh. So, but I'm
we
trying.
only do the Estes method. That's the only way I can listen is doing the Estes method. Otherwise, I'm like, what did you say? What did you say? And like, I feel bad for them because I'm like, can you say it again? Like when it's on a speaker, I just can't get it. I can't. So
Yeah,
the
I
Estes
need
method is the
some.
only way. We use those gamer headphones that are like
Yeah.
super surround sound, and it helps like pull the voice out from the static. And I also use a Spirit Box Pro, which helps a lot.
That's good to know. That's what I was going to ask you because I would like something a little bit better because I just have something off Amazon, learner tool to experiment with. And I have the hardest time. I don't hear anything on it. I just hear static.
Yeah. With gear, it's like you get what you pay for, and
Yep.
sometimes it can cost a fortune, but you get the results that you're hoping to get. And so we Spirit Box is so fun for us. Like I feel like we're like calling them up on the phone and we're like, "Hey, you want to chat?" Like it's like sometimes I literally feel like we're just talking to like a friend on the phone, and it's so fun for us. And they love it too. Like it's hilarious. Actually, one of my favorite paranormal experiences I have just because it was so cute. We always spirit box on Saturdays, always. Like it's like a thing in our house. They know to expect it. They all like decide who's gonna do it, and it's an event. And one Saturday, it was like around the holidays, and we were busy, and we didn't do spirit box on Saturday. And it was like 1 in the morning, and we always use my husband's like gamer headphones that he uses for his video games that are on a stand on his desk. And I'm sitting in here and I hear this like giant crash. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, please don't be something fragile. That's like my boundary. I'm like, you know what? You can throw whatever, just don't make it something fragile, please. And so I was like, okay, that sounded like it hurt. And like that left a mark somewhere. So I'm like going around trying to figure out what it is. I go into my husband's office and the big Spirit Box headphones had been like chucked across the room and hit the closet door on the other side. And I was like, I know you guys, we were supposed to do Spirit Box. Like it was so clear what the message was, you know? I was like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know we're supposed to do Spirit Box today and we didn't get to. I'm really sorry. Like we'll do it again. And I immediately thought it was Jer because Jer is like the spirit box, his favorite thing, and he blamed it on Diego, but I don't know. Diego's not really one to throw stuff. He's not suspicious in that way, so I still kind of think it was Jer. I'm not gonna lie, but
You might never know. I'm not telling.
yeah, yeah, because sometimes they're sneaky about stuff too. Like they will be like, "I'm not telling," so I'm like, "Okay,
Are they ever jealous of each other?
yes, yeah."
Now, who is the one let's see, over your left shoulder? Looks like it's sucking she, I can't, short black hair. It looks like maybe sucking the thumb. Nope, underneath.
Oh, Policy.
Um,
Yes. Yes. So she was actually found on a Native American reservation.
okay, okay.
Um, Fascinating story. Um, my mom, she was actually my mom's. for a while. My mom was her spirit keeper and then was like, yeah, she wants to go to a home that has more kids. And so she came here. But Talisie's fascinating because someone's grandmother passed away and she went to clear out her house. And she went into her grandmother's closet, which was on a Native American reservation. And there was like a little like bassinet in like the back corner of the closet. And Talisie's vessel was in there, like wrapped up in blankets and like was clearly well taken care of. And her daughter's like, or like, this is really strange. I don't know, A, where my grandmother would have gotten this, B, like where it came from, C, why she's taking care of it. Like, what is happening? She's like, something is super weird with this. And then she brought Talisie home and stuff started happening. And she was like, oh, okay, got it. Now it makes sense. Totally makes sense. I guess she just didn't tell anybody about this. And so she got sent in for an investigation. Long story short, we ended up with her. But she's a little girl. She's 8. She has a really interesting story. She's half Irish, half Native American, and she's like a super, super positive, sweet spirit, but she did pass in a battle where basically the entire town was wiped out because of an invasion, and she was one of them. So Talisie's an interesting one. It's like sometimes you get ones that are found in very obscure ways, and I think she's one that's found in a really obscure way, and then Emma is our other one that was found in probably the strangest way. We love Emma, but Emma was found in a locked tornado shelter on a property that was turned into a bedroom. Somebody bought a property, didn't know there was a tornado shelter until they were like, oh, we're gonna, make adjustments, but we're gonna do construction, tear the house down, blah, blah, blah. And they find literally built into a hill, like a tornado shelter, and it had like a giant lock on it and was like covered in brush. Like somebody like locked this thing down. And this is insane. They broke the lock, they broke in, and this tornado shelter was turned into a children's bedroom, like kids' bed, kids' toys, kids' books, whatever. And Emma is sitting in the middle of the bed in like a christening gown with like 100 crosses on her.
Oh boy.
Yeah, sus, right? Like you're like, oh, that's sus.
Oh,
Yeah, not cool.
chills.
Yeah. And so what does this nice lady do? This nice lady, she's like, oh my goodness, there's so many nice things in here. I'm gonna give it to my grandchild.
Oh,
Yeah, she's like, oh, it's a beautiful doll. Everything in great condition. I'm gonna give it to my grandchild. Okay, good idea. Love that. So she brings all the crap inside, including Emma's vessel and all of these toys. She brings it inside of her house. I'm like, okay, if you find a doll that's covered in
process.
crusted, like there's probably a reason why. And why is she in a bedroom? Why is it like there's so many questions, right? So
Padlocked bedroom.
like it was like they locked it up and threw away the key kind of thing. And when they moved, they left it. Brings it inside and like Emma relocates. She's very active. She moves, she relocates. Like you'll leave her on the bed and you'll come in and she's sitting in the chair. Like she was moving. She's like, I'm not going to give this to my grandchild. So
Never
she
mind.
sent it in for an investigation. And Emma's actually like the spirit of a 2-year-old little girl. She's so sweet. She is lovely, but I think just because a lot of times the kids are the most active and
Hmm.
the kids tend to scare the pants off of people. So
Yes, I
when
do.
kids are submitted for investigation, a lot of times it's, oh, I have a demonic spirit here. I have a negative spirit here. And it's like, no, it's just a little kid that's like causing an absolute scene to get your attention. And yeah, Emma was one of those.
Does
So
she give butterflies in the tummy? Or
yes,
does she? Okay. Yep.
yes,
Yep.
she does.
That
That
is
is Emma.
so funny because the moment you brought her up, I got butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah, that's Emma.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
They all have their things. They all have their things.
That is so wild. Like, and my eyes are still watering. Who causes the eye water again? Because I think she wants Jared.
It's Jer.
Jared's like, talk about me some more. Like,
Oh, I could. The stories I have on Jer are insane.
because my eyes, like, he's like, no, no, no. You can't talk about the
He's the
other
center of
child.
attention. He's the center of attention. He's the king of our house. He is incredible, but he wants to be known and he wants his time. And if he doesn't get it, he'll take down the internet. He will like
Oh,
me from texting people. He gets what he wants and he is very efficient at it. So
Now, is there one that kind of makes your throat feel funny?
Throat feel
Kind
funny.
of like not closing up, but or did any of them die
Is
from
it like
like
pressure?
yes?
Rowan.
Isn't that crazy?
Rowan. Yeah, I actually can't even I put her story out on my YouTube channel and I was like, I'm putting her story out once and I'm never recording it again because every time I tell her a story, like I start coughing and need to use my inhaler. Because I don't know if it like reminds her of what happened or what, but like anytime I even talk about her story, I get that
It's like
feeling.
right here.
Yeah, it does not
Okay.
feel good. It does not feel good.
Okay, interesting. That is
Yeah, it
so
was
interesting. And
a suffocation situation.
yes, that is exactly how it feels. So my spirit in my haunted house died of asphyxiation.
Mm.
And when I was saging the house, when I first bought the house, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But he made me feel how he felt while he was dying, and
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot. So it wasn't that intense, but it definitely was just like, is my throat closing up right now? Like,
Yes. Yes, I've had that from her.
okay.
It's a rough one. It's a rough one for sure.
Now, who's the elephant? Because the
Mia,
Mia.
yes.
Oh, so she and it might just be your screen, but she's right behind your head, and she keeps changing colors from like a light pink to like a little brighter pink. And so I don't know if that's
Her
just the
orbs are
screen.
also pink and like glittery, and sometimes they're gold too. We get gold off of her. She has a lot of like weird like light stuff, but Mia is the sweetest individual. She's a 6-year-old little girl. We love Mia. She was one of our first, and Mia actually has like healing properties. So like sometimes if I have a headache, like I'll hold Mia and she can make my headache go away. She's amazing. She's just the best.
I love that. I love feel good stuff.
Yeah, Mia is feel good. Like my dog was having surgery for a lump she had on her chest, and she got it removed, but it was like a giant lump. So like the incision was big. And when I brought her home from surgery, she was just a hot mess. I mean, she was crying and screaming and shaking and just like
Oh,
laying on the ground and like I mean, she was inconsolable. There was nothing I could do to make that dog feel better, no matter what I did. And I like ran out of options. I don't like to ask them for things very often. I like to give a lot more than I ask for, even though I do have some that can like be very helpful. I try not to ask for too much just because I feel like it's rude and I don't want them to think that like I'm taking advantage of like them being here. But on this one, I was like, okay, I haven't asked for anything in a really, really long time. I was like, this is the day. So I grabbed Mia and I brought her down and I was like, okay, just sit by Molly. I was like, if you can make her feel better. Second I put Mia down, stopped crying, went to sleep. I was like, all
oh,
right. I just tried for 30 minutes without any luck. So,
Mia said, step aside.
yes.
I got this.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Do you have anybody who's 7?
So Mia and Jer is 6.5. Mia is 6. I don't know if I have 7. I think 7 gets skipped and it's 8
Okay.
is the next one.
Okay. All right. So I have to know this because I know you probably catch hate from people because ignorance breeds hate.
Mm-hmm.
What is some of the dumbest things some people have said to you? I'm just curious because I know people have
Gosh,
said
I love this question. This is
people
such a
say
fun
some
question.
stupid stuff to me, and I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. So I actually, believe it or not, so when I started this, I was like, I'm gonna get a ton of hate. I was like, I'm gonna get ripped apart on the internet for doing this, and I don't care because for as many people as there are that are gonna hate what I'm doing, there are a lot of people who need to see this. And a big part of my account that like, the public doesn't see is my DMs on a daily basis are people messaging me losing their minds because they're so scared of a haunted object that they have. So, I get to help a lot of people who are experiencing this, including people who are skeptics. Hey, I don't believe in this, but this haunted object's ruining my life. What do I do? Um, and so like that's a huge part of my account. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna help people and I don't care who I piss off in the process. I don't. But honestly, like the response that I have gotten has not been what I expected. I expected it to be way worse. 99% of people are so nice. Like seriously, so nice and supportive and love this. Like even skeptics come on my lives, they see Jessica moving her eyes and they're like, I'm not a skeptic anymore. So, honestly, like I don't want to make it like, oh, I get so much hate because honestly, 99% of it is really, really nice and very complimentary. But the thing that drives me nuts is every single person who comments sorry or sorry for looking in your eyes on all of my videos. It drives me bonkers to the point where I made a YouTube video about it explaining why you shouldn't say that. You don't need to say it. Basically, the history of this is this started with this one haunted object, like way, way, way back in time, pre-internet, who had it was a negative who had a thing about being looked at in the eyes,
I know who that is.
got overgeneralized
Hmm.
to being every haunted object is not like being looked at in the eyes, including positives. Even on videos where I'm educating why you don't need to look them in the eyes, people will still apologize for looking them in the eyes. And then there are people who clearly enjoy watching my stuff because it's like they follow me and they comment on all of my videos. Like I'm like, okay, you're going through and watching all of them, but you still have to say it, you know? So that drives me nuts because I find it, I know it's a sign of respect. I know it's, I'm scared and they're trying to show respect to the spirit. But in my opinion, like with a positive, like it's actually disrespectful because they want to be looked at. They
Hmm.
want to be viewed. They're nice. They're like sharing, what they do and like you're apologizing to them. So it's actually more disrespectful than it is respectful. So I think that's, the worst one I got. And this is nutty. I got a message from a guy who was like, it's a shame that you're crazy because you'd be so pretty if you weren't nuts. And I was like, what? He's like, that's a waste of your potential. I was like, and I just
Oh,
like, I do not get insulted by people hating on my stuff. I really don't. I get it. Like there are skeptics, there are people who are not into this, there are people with spiritual beliefs who like this is directly in conflict with. I
yes,
understand.
exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
okay with it. I don't take it personally. But yeah, that's the craziest. I've also had some people say some really nasty stuff to my spirits, and that's when I get mad because I don't care if you disrespect me, but you don't disrespect them. So yeah.
If you
Yeah,
don't have anything nice to say, you are more than welcome to keep scrolling.
right. I'm like, I'm
Like,
not posting this for you, like specifically. Like, I'm sorry it hurt your feelings, but
I'm not
yeah.
even sorry that it hurt their feelings. Like, you're nicer than I am because I'm like, you have all the control in the world to keep scrolling.
Right. But I always say for like every one, nasty, there's 100 people who are super, super, super nice.
Yeah, that's good.
So I can't care. Honestly, I find it to be very funny in a lot of instances. Like it's pure entertainment because I'm like, wow, like you are that offended. You need to go out of your way to like people come on my lives and be like, don't tell me what to do. I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do. You shut up on my live. I'm sitting in my bedroom like chilling. They're like, don't tell me what to believe in. And I'm like, I'm literally not. I say on all my lives, I'm like, you are welcome if you believe this, if you don't believe this, if you're somewhere in the middle, whatever. Like all I ask for is that you're respectful. That's it. I don't care what you believe in. Like, and even people who believe in what I believe in have their slightly different way. It's like a spiritual practice. It's good. We can all be different. But you respect what I do, like we're chilling. But some people like take stuff online, like you put that out there for them
Oh, yeah,
specifically.
you woke up with the intent of pissing them off.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like,
Like,
I don't know who you are. I don't care what you believe. Like, I don't.
I had people that come on mine, like when I was like talking about Bobby Mackey's Haunted or Bobby Mackey's Music World, and they were like, I do not, I rebuke this or something. And I'm like,
Oh, I get that. Yeah. I do not claim this negative energy. And
yes.
I'm like, I'm like, I don't work with negatives either.
Oh, oh, there's negative. Well, Bobby Mackey's is very negative, but it was just, it's so funny because it's like, just scroll. You watching it isn't attracting. Just keep going. Just keep going. I'm literally just giving historical information
Yeah.
is all I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. I'm not out here to like convince you of anything, but yeah, I get a little bit of it. It's really not that bad. I also have really good mods on my lives and things that just kick, 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 like, they're just like booting everybody. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Somebody called me predatory. They're like, you're predatory for telling people that, your haunted dolls helped you. I'm like, how am I predatory? I'm not selling anything. Like I'm not selling anything. I don't sell haunted dolls. I don't plan on selling haunted dolls. I'm literally just sharing my experience in my house. Like I'm
Right.
not selling me as services. Like I'm just
That is
so
that is ignorance. And I always say like I'm ignorant when it comes to certain things, and that's why like I reached out to you because I want to learn. I don't like being scared of things. Like I had one bad experience that shouldn't taint everything. And when I saw your videos and your dolls, I mean, they truly have personalities and their personalities are very different and they come through a video. And so it's
yes,
like,
they do.
I want to talk to you. I want to know like how did this start? Because this dolls are typically something that some people are scared of. And it's just like, and here's somebody who's living with them and has so many of them, and they look so lovely.
They are. And I always say, like, respect is everything with the paranormal. Everything.
It
Um,
really is.
like, we respect them and they respect us. They talk about it. Like if somebody's like disrespectful, like one of the other spirits, they'll be like, so and so was disrespectful today. Like they take it very seriously, and even with like bad paranormal experiences, like respect is everything and attention because a lot of the activity that you get is just attention seeking. And when you get I always tell people like who have, a ghost that's acting out, I'm like, well, have you tried talking to it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's always what I say. I'm like, tell them that you don't mean any harm, that you respect them, you expect the same, set those boundaries and just tell them, your light flickers say like, hey, I see you, thanks for saying hi, and just move on about your life. Because when you ignore them, is when they're like, okay, I'm going to do more because I'm going to try to get you to notice me. You're not noticing me. Why aren't you noticing me? And then with positives, if you have a positive on your hands, well, you're scared and then they're upset because you're scared. So it's kind of a cycle. So I hear a lot about stuff like that. And a lot of times it's kids. I've had people contacting me about a haunted house and they're super scared and they make contact with the ghosts. I teach them how to do it, like through the internet, through message. I teach them how to do it. They make contact and they end up having like a really great experience. So it's not always what it seems, and I always tell people like don't judge the activity you're seeing based on how you feel about it.
Right.
Because just because you're scared doesn't mean that it's supposed to be scary for
Right.
sometimes it's just to say hi. I always say like every day when I get home from work, that's when my activity is the most. Every single day when I'm out or whatever, I get home, walk in the door, the lights are flickering, the doors are opening. It's like the walls are knocking. It's like mass activity because they're excited and they're just saying hi when I get home.
She's
And
home.
so it
She's home. She's home.
doesn't mean that they're like threatening me when I walk in the house. It's just like,
Right.
oh, hey, and I'm like, hey, like nice to see you, whoever you are, and we move on and it stops like right when I say hi. So it's not always the intent to be scary, even though people often perceive it that way.
Right, because it's different and it's unknown and it's spooky sometimes because when you're sitting there and then lights start coming on and off, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I
Yeah.
lived it and I was very scared of my ghost for a very long time, but he didn't like me. And I could tell he didn't like me. He didn't like women very much. And over time, we learned to live together. And when I sold the house, he was sad, but it took time for us to get to the point where we could live together without
I
him intentionally scaring me.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem. Mine are like guard dog protective over me. So like people come over to my house and we're like joking around and they like so much just raise their voice and like something gets thrown and I'm like, guys, it's fine. They're not like yelling at me. Like they like guard me. They're like, oh, somebody's gonna hurt Taylor. And they also like new spirits, like Oric who got here a week ago. Like Terry has like staged this entire thing to like make Oric's life difficult. Um, because apparently and a medium who I work with told me this. Apparently I was putting out offerings on the shelves for everybody for Valentine's Day and Oric like was nervous because I was approaching the shelf and he didn't know me and he was like standing behind me watching because he leaves his vessel and like Terry turned it into this whole thing about how I was going to be attacked and so she like gathered all of her friends to like make his life difficult because they have to protect me even though he did literally nothing to me but
Meanwhile, he's just still having a panic attack about the bubble wrap being shipped.
I'm like, Terry, that's all he cares about. She's like a hippie with a power complex. You just can't with Terry. It's like she's so protective and she's actually like a negative energy blocker. Like she's really great, but like that doesn't mean that she always makes the right judgment of what to block. Like sometimes she just blocks stuff because she don't like it. And I'm like, okay, Terry. And she's like, this is my job. I'm like, I appreciate your job. It's really great, but like we gotta tone it down. We
I
have
love
to.
it. I love it. Now, who's the penguin that keeps poking around your head over there?
Oh, that is actually not a vessel. That is Anna's like emotional support penguin. She was really nervous when she got here, and we got her a stuffed animal, and it like helped ease the anxiety. But we're not allowed to take the penguin off the shelf.
Okay. Well, I just see the penguin poking around your head like this.
Yeah, yeah, that's Anna's penguin, and it's always in a different position. She like moves it around, and yeah, penguin just stays on the shelf. Everybody thinks the penguin's haunted. The penguin is not haunted, I promise.
Penguin just has a haunted owner, and
Yes.
it's okay. So have you ever met a negative doll? Like in the process of trying to find a doll, have you ever found a negative doll and you were like, no, that's good.
I have not. But I do a copious amount of research on who I'm buying from and where I'm buying from. Which is like why I created that guide for other people to like do their own research is because like I always tell people like you don't have to have those nasty experiences if you don't want them. Like to be in the paranormal world, you don't have to have these horrible things happen. The horror stories always come from I went to a thrift store to try to find something haunted and then it ruined my life. I hear that a lot, and I'm like, well, then don't buy anything with the face of a thrift store. All right, just don't. There's a chance it's haunted. If there's a chance it's haunted, there's a chance it's positive. There's also a chance it's negative. You don't know. So I always tell people, like, if you're bringing home stuff with a face from a thrift store, an estate sale, an antique store, like a lot of mine were found, like Barb was found at an Amish antique store. And then brought it home, and somebody had a really angry ghost on their hands. And so no, I haven't. I have had episodes where like one of my haunted dolls throws a temper tantrum. I've definitely had that, but I've never had like a negative, like trying to get a positive and got a negative kind of thing. So
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Well, makes me wonder what those dolls were in Hendersonville because we all felt it. And maybe it wasn't negative. Maybe they were just like, who are these people? They are in my space, but it made me nauseous when I went up the stairs because it was like a little room off the antique store and it was like kind of like last chance type things, I guess, before they purged the store. I don't know how they do that, but it was super negative, like instant headache, nausea, and it was just like, I gotta get out of here.
you also don't know too, because there's a difference between a haunted object, a cursed object, and an energy charged object. So energy charged objects are really interesting because they can make you feel really gross, especially if you're like an empath and sensitive to that kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean that they're haunted. People are often get confused, and that's why I always say like be careful with your EMF meter. Use your EMF meter with other things. Don't use your EMF for questions and answers and things like that because an energy charged object can set off an EMF reader and it's not haunted at all. And you are literally talking to an object that's not, like I'm like, you're not talking to a spirit, you're talking to an object. Energy charged objects are really interesting. They are objects where somebody basically put a great deal of their own energy into it. A lot of times this happens with collections, which is why some dolls are just energy charged. Somebody who collects porcelain dolls, and they put all their life and soul into collecting these dolls, and they happen to be a person who is really depressed, or they have anxiety, or just their house is filled with nastiness, and then the objects in your house like fill with this nasty energy basically. Or I always like use grief as a really good example. Like, there's also a lot of like haunted jewelry out there. But there's also a lot of energy charged jewelry out there. Like my wedding ring would be something like I've clearly put a lot of my energy into. I wear it every single day. It meant a lot to me. My wedding, it's a memory. So like, yeah, my wedding ring is going to have energy and could probably set off an EMF meter, but that doesn't mean that there is a spirit attached. So energy charged objects are interesting as well, which I always say, like, be careful around thrift stores and stuff like that, because you can, even not on the haunted end, like, if you don't cleanse stuff from somebody else's house, you could be bringing their energy into your space. So, yeah, you never know.
And then cursed items are items that have been cursed.
Yeah, yeah. And curse items, they don't have a personality. You can't talk to them. It's basically just like a dark storm cloud following you around.
Mm, well, that's good to know. I've never heard anybody explain it like that. That is awesome.
They just do effects. They're not spirits. They're just effects. I just helped somebody with a cursed item a week or two ago, and she was getting bloody noses, headaches, things of that nature, and got it out of the house, and all's well.
That's
All's well.
awesome.
But yeah, cursed objects are basically just storm clouds, and they just make you feel like crap, and you can't make friends with them because there's no personality. It's not a spirit. It's just magic.
It's just kind of like the almost like the energy filled one. It's just a really negative energy that's
Mhm.
attached to that object.
Yeah, and curses are placed with the intention to harm,
Oh, that's lovely.
isn't it?
That is a really good way of explaining that because I never even thought about it. I guess it's the ignorance, just thinking that they're all the same thing.
Yeah, and people get there's a lot of with investigations you have to be really careful. That's why I always say like you have to find somebody who knows who to investigate or how to investigate to buy these things because there are a lot of people that sell energy charged objects and think they're haunted and then they get to your house and they're not actually haunted and you're like, well, I just spent, $100 on a really nice old doll.
It's very pretty.
Just spent $100 on a Goodwill doll. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Well, that's really awesome. I really appreciate you telling some of your stories of your dolls. Is there anyone that you want to tell me about or tell our listeners or your listeners or my listeners or anybody about that's like really special that you haven't mentioned?
I've talked about Jer. You know what? I think Hoshiko needs an honorable mention, to be honest with you. This one's Hoshiko right behind me. Hoshiko is bizarre. She's super different, which is why I always think she's interesting to talk about. Hoshi is actually a Japanese yokai spirit, which is a spirit from Japan. She's what's called a Zashiki Warashi, which is like basically in Japan, they're known as like it's basically a positive house ghost, and they are spirits of children who lost their lives typically in pretty bad ways. So it's children whose lives were cut short. And Zashiki Warashi are actually worshipped in a lot of places as like almost like gods there. People have offering tables for Zashiki Warashi. People are always trying to like lure a Zashiki Warashi to their house and trying to please them. People will build their houses with like a gold ball underneath them when they're building to hopefully attract a Zashiki Warashi to the property because basically this specific type of spirit is known for bringing like good luck and prosperity to the owner with the condition that you allow them to haunt your house. And they're very mischievous typically. They're known for being like troublemakers and they're positive. They're just like known for mischief tricks and games. And that is what Hoshiko is. She is the most mischievous of the mischievous. The thing is when you say mischievous, right, it comes in different brands depending on who the spirit is that's doing it and what their thing is. Well, Hoshiko is 5, but her thing is she's really into horror movies,
Oh,
which is like horror movie lover paired with mischievous spirit is like match made in heaven, you know? She's like a little spirit guide. I mean, seriously, she'll give you advice. She's so sweet. She reports on everything going on in her house, but like she will also try to scare the pants off of you. So she's a manifesting spirit, which is a type of spirit that you can see with your eyeballs. So sometimes I see Hoshiko running around my house, just like
really?
yes. Yes, I see her all the time. She's like a cute little girl. She's got black hair and like this little perfectly straight like bob cut. She's usually wearing black. I've seen her wearing red once. But she usually runs around and plays near the fireplace. I don't know why, that's just her thing. But the other really fun part is she likes to show up as her favorite horror movie characters.
Oh,
So she will pop up behind you as like the girl from The Ring. Um,
oh,
or the girl from The Grudge. Yeah, her seller was like, "Yeah, I made the honest mistake of showing her The Grudge and it was game over." So she only shows up as stuff she's seen. So we have to be like really careful about like what we watch while she is around because she gets bright ideas. We watched Squid Games and she started showing up as Squid Games masks all over the house. It's just like stuff she sees and then she just is like, "Oh, I'm gonna be that for today." She doesn't do it in like a horrifying way where it's like, okay, I'm gonna taunt you with this for like the next hour and make your life miserable. She'll like jump scare you with it, and then you'll be like, Hoshi, I know it's you. And then she like turns back into herself and runs away laughing.
I was gonna say she's giggling, isn't she? Because
She's laughing the entire time.
I can almost hear a giggle in my head and just like a child, pure
Yeah.
joy that they
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah, she like jump scares you and then just like laughs hysterically. And sometimes like I'm not even scared and I just pretend like I'm scared just so like she just feels good about herself. You know, like I do not get scared anymore with her because I'm so used to it. Because like the first day she got here, she did it like 8 or 9 times to me. It was like over and over. She was like, I'm just gonna see what gets you kind of thing. She still gets my husband and she's successful and she thinks she's very proud of that. But with me, it's like she doesn't even scare me anymore. But like, she really wants to. So I'm like, oh wow, you got me, and she's like laughing. So
Ooh.
when she shows up like in communication sessions, we always know it's her because she always like will yell boo and stuff like that. She's just really, really funny. So Hoshiko is really interesting. My TikTok account blew up when I got Hoshiko. I'm like, I don't know if this is the prosperity piece or just a coincidence or the internet just loves Hoshi, but Hoshi's a cool one. So in
That's cool.
exchange for scaring the pants off of us, she brings good luck.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
That
it's a
is
unique
very
one. It's a
that
unique
is
one.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this and
Of
talking to
course.
me. Where can everybody find you? Just plug yourself. Just tell everybody where they can
Plug
find you.
So I am on TikTok. My handle everywhere is Paranormal Teej. I am on TikTok. I am on YouTube. TikTok, obviously, I do shorts. I also go live on TikTok. I have a subscription where people can subscribe and watch all of my spirit box sessions, all of my Ouija sessions, all of the really deep investigation stuff I do post in my subscription over on TikTok. I am also on YouTube. That is where you can find my long form stories of each of my haunted dolls so you can hear like their whole background. So it's like anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes of hearing about one specific spirit and also seeing videos of like their different things that they're able to do. So that's what we use YouTube for typically. We also have a Discord server, which is for people to get help with paranormal experiences they're having if they run themselves into a haunted object or doll and they need help. There's a lot of collectors on there, in addition to myself, and we just help people out on there. If you want to collect, you're interested in collecting, you need help with something, like that's the place to be. We have gotten a really awesome little community going. The one beautiful thing about doing this that I found is I get messages on a weekly basis from people that are like, I have collected haunted objects for 15 years and I didn't tell anybody about it because I was embarrassed. And now it's really nice because there are a lot of people who have been doing this and just nobody knew. And now there's a community of people doing it. So I always like to plug that just in case people are looking, people do this and are looking for it, or people have something on their hands that they need help with and don't know where to turn. There are people out there that can help with paranormal experiences. So hit us up, join us, and yeah, that's the plug list.
That's awesome. Somebody's trying to make me cry. I can feel it. They're trying to make me
Sorry.
cry.
Here.
Yeah, definitely my eyes. Like I keep like I just started again. That is so wild. This is
Yeah.
wild. Thank you so
Now you're
much.
gonna watch Jared videos and you're gonna cry every time.
Probably. It's like overwhelming. It's
He'll show up in your dreams too. I don't know if you're a dreamer, but
I
he
am.
is showing up in viewers' dreams, like people who interact with him on videos and things, and then they get dreams about him. The dreams are usually the same, which is really interesting because I have like documentation because I'm always like, you know, I don't know if you're dreaming because you're obsessed with Jared and you watch videos of him all day, because there are people like that, which, you know, that could cause dreams just because you're interested. But when I know that he visited, is his dreams are always kind of, they have a brand, you know, and there's always the same things in them. And I have documentation of like probably 15 different people having the same dream from Jer.
That is so
So it's
wild.
really
Well, I'll
fascinating.
let you know if he pops up in my dream.
Please
One
do.
one more question. Who gives a headache?
Jer.
Does he really? Because like my head is starting to hurt.
Yeah, you're picking up on how he passed.
Oh,
So he was starved by his parents and he passed from like broken bones and stuff related to that. So people who are very like people who are empaths, Jer can make them very sad and like it lays off after like you're exposed to him a lot, you get used to his energy and people like don't recognize it anymore. But it's almost like this like hunger pressure headache people get.
yep.
Um,
That's exactly what it is.
where it's like, oh, I haven't eaten in days and days and days and my head really hurts. That's the kind of headache people typically get from Jer. So,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
sorry about
Okay. No, you're fine. That is my mind is blown. Okay.
he's a little kid, but he's big energy. Like people always say, who's the most active spirit in your collection? Like Jer is in the top three for sure. Like my most active are like Jer, Jessica, and Christy down here. They're super, super active.
That is so cool. That's so cool. Crazy and cool. That is very cool. Thank you so much
Of
for
course, thank you.
this is so great. I can't wait. This is going to air tomorrow. I will let you
Oh,
know.
it's
And
fast. I'm so excited.
oh yeah, can't wait to share your stories and just this. I just can't wait. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. So excited. So I really appreciate you. And it
Thank
was
you
so
so much
nice
for
meeting you.
having me. This
All
was
right.
awesome. And you had amazing questions too. So you made it super easy.
Yay. Because I'm fascinated. I'm told you I'm the weird one. I'm like, okay, I don't understand it. Let me learn about it.
Yeah, I could talk to you for like 10 hours about this stuff. I mean, the stories I have is just endless. I have this entire cabinet under Omi and Christy is notebooks of all of like the experiences we've had. We document it all. I'm like, I could go on and on and on. So I
Uh,
appreciate you
I know.
hanging in
I'm
there
like,
for the
and my intrusive thought is like, where do you live? Because like, can I come over? And like, don't say it, but I just said it because like that's how fascinated I am. But yeah, that's just intrusive thought.
Come on over.
Well, thank
They
you.
love meeting people too. It's hilarious.
I can
So
I can tell. That's what's so funny is they are loving this. They're enjoying this. They're so glad you set up where I
they
can see
perform.
them. Yes. And I'm like watching because I'm like, are they going to move? Because I've watched your videos, I'm like, but they haven't moved. If they've moved, it's been
Yeah.
very subtle and I'm blind and can't see that far.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. I'll see you later.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Taylor, for being a guest on my show. And I cannot wait to see which doll you highlight next and just keep following along with your stories. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can find me at Ghost Gossip Pod on TikTok, Ghost Gossip Podcast on Instagram. And remember, send me all your ghost gossip at ghostgossip247@gmail.com. Until next time, they'll see you later.